This is Paul, and I am into the second part of this unit. And if you did the first unit, you learned how to plan for a proper database and be able to have a direction of what you're going to do. It is neglected by many and not even taught in some universities. But it is important to have a direction of what you want to do in a database. It'll save a lot of time and energy, and as you get accustomed to this process, we're talking only about minutes instead of the long time that we have been taken to explain it all step by step. So as you can see, we have already done a rough design for our database by making a selection from a CD collection out of our selections of personal files. But we're not going to keep it that way. I have made it accommodate for all 9 fields that we plan to make, and now it is going to be time to get into the details of each one. After making a rough diagram of fields to match what we want to do with 9 different pieces of our structure, we need to relate back to our basic plan of what we want for our database. With this in front of you, we got to keep that vision there. We are ready to press the next button on the screen. After the next screen comes up, we have it displayed right now. We are realizing that we're able to go back and add fields as necessary. Now take notice, I do have a list in the center there of all 9 fields, but they are not exactly what we want according to our plan. So we're going to make modifications to each one. Take notice that as the first field is selected, we're looking at the title there, and we have a chance to either change the name of it in the circle there or keep it the way it is. I think it's appropriate to keep it the way it is, and I have no problem with that. Take notice that each field that we look at, we're going to see the selections underneath that will fit our structure, except for one item which I will discuss at this time as well. The field type is going to be text, and that is what we have laid out on a rough diagram on paper. And also there is an entry required selection there that you can force that every file is going to have, every record that is going to have a title for the CD that is stored there. And also take notice that the length of this field is automatically set to 100. And boy, that is going to take up a lot of space. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to modify these fields. Now I have already made changes to this field for the album title. And one thing is that I did keep it as a text, which is variable characters, which means the field does not have to be filled. I did change it. Take notice that there is a drop-down arrow for that field that we can select whatever type of field we want it to be. We're not limited to what the original selection is. Now the entry required field, I changed it to yes because I felt that if I don't put anything in there, I don't want it to take. I don't want to have a lot of empty records. Now I also changed the length down to 45 where it was originally 100. So then I have cut that space in half. And by the time I get all of my CDs listed in there, it's going to make a definite difference. I have already made similar changes to the field for artist. I wanted that to be also filled at all times. And now I do turn my attention to the collection ID. and I am selecting to make it a numerical field. And if you look at the skeleton on your paper that we have intended, I have added a 0 there for decimal places. Take notice that field is also added here. Now I also have it required because I want every disk to have its own ID. We have changed the length down to 3 where it was originally 10. And take notice on the bottom there, we can always go backwards and change our selections if we want to. But so far we are doing as planned. Now in this display I have already put in my P1, P2, P3, P4, and I have taken the liberty of changing the name of the field, which is the first item on our list in that circle. And now we're talking about the mood. I have changed the name to mood or anything else I want it to be. It is not limited. You can have numbers and letters in there combined, and it is to match what we want it to understand what it should be. These names will show up on the top of our display for our data. So be sure to set these names as you will have explanation along with it. On this mood, we have on our outline that it is 8 spaces. And take notice that I have changed that to the length of the field. Now, entry required, I have left that empty because actually we're going to be getting rid of this field later on, so it's not going to be important. Take notice on the bottom, we do have the back and the next, and we are ready to go to the next part. By selecting next, we are asking to set a primary key. I need to explain what this primary key is. It is going to put your files, each record, in order. Now basically there is a record number assigned to it automatically so that your database will know how many records there are. Now in this respect, we don't necessarily want that to be our display. And in our case, we want to have it possibly in alphabetical order, that it will make it easy to find what CD we're looking for and get that information. However, this key does not limit us to anything that we want to make of reports. And reports will either be made to the printer or it can be made for on screen. It is our output of the result of what we enter. Now to discuss this, we're going to create a primary key. And in this circle here, there is a radio button already selected to automatically add a primary key with an auto value. Now what that means is it's going to add on to our database with its own form of counting, and it'll be incremented automatically as we put our input. That is really not necessary, but that is something that some people favor to go along with. However, I do look to the center one where I have a radio button and a circle now, and this will set a primary key to a single field. And in our case, that might be sufficient. However, we do have another option to use multiple fields. And if our database should have more than one CD with the same name, we can add the sort to be with the artist, and it would put both the CD and the artist together in alphabetical order. Now take notice that as there is a blank side there for primary key that is selected, It is the same process of what we did from the very beginning to set up our fields to begin with. So this is a very interesting thing that can be used to make sense out of our database instead of everything being put in randomly and read randomly. It will become something of a sorted order for understanding. For our exercise, we're going to keep to a simple sort. And what I mean is a single field is going to be used for our sorting instead of a multiple field. The technical term in doing this is called a simple sort. And take notice that in our selection here, we are going to select the title of our database that gives each title to each CD we have, and be able to make that sort, to be able to look up the names of what is in our database for each CD. One thing I do want to tell you is that with this selection, it does create another set of files. And the larger you make this, the more space it's going to take on your hard drive. So it is very important to use only what is needed in order to conserve space. I am now circling a drop-down arrow, and as you realize that in everything that we have studied with Windows as well as different programs, when there is a drop-down arrow, it means there's a selection to choose from. And after making that selection, we see a display of all the fields that we have created for our database. So I should say for our table. And each database can have more than one table and have them relate to each other, and that's what we're going to do later on. So at the present time, we are going to select the title field that we are interested in, called album title, and that is going to become our primary key or our indexed field. Now I have already circled the bottom part of where it says to finish. Next we'll do the same thing in this case, and we will advance into our database layout and realize that we have created our table. After getting this far, we can realize that on our database view, the table on the left side is highlighted, and it matches the title of the bottom half of our database there where everything is listed. Now, in this section, we are able to see not only this table, but other tables that are associated with it. And we are able to open and close them at the same time. And we can have more than one table open at the single time as well. That is where an advantage of a relational database exists. Now this is a good time to take a break, and I will be explaining more about this view to you and be able to realize what is for input, what is for output, and how things are managed. I realize that this has been a lot of work to put together your first database, but once you get used to it, it'll be much easier, much quicker. But take notice that this will save a lot of time if you do your planning stage first and then do your initial layout without any hesitation. This process is really not that long. It's the explanation that goes along with it that has taken up so much of our time. I invite you to go ahead to part 3, and we're going to discuss more about the selections that are on the left side of our database window and understand what they are for. So I thank you for working along with me, and as I am like you to know is that this is a beginner's grounding in what a database is about.